when it comes to books, quantity isn't always a good thing. Like, you know, whenever you have, you know, you just finish a book and then you turn to read like the next thing on the list and you have like this mountain of books, or let's say you're just getting into reading, like, where do you start? This was me about 1.5 years ago when I was just beginning to read and I had no idea where to start. And so now, you know, currently I have kind of the other problem where I have, you know, all of these books that I want to read, but I can't figure out which ones to give priority to. Luckily, I've developed a bit of a system to decide how to choose for both scenarios. You know, whenever you are just starting out and you have no idea where to begin, and the other side of it where you have too many options and you're not sure which ones to even go with. I mean, if you're just beginning to read, how are you supposed to choose? You're supposed to just like walk into a library and just like blindly grope around until you land on something and then that's what you choose? I mean, ideally no. So let's take a look at how I went about doing this. So let's say you just started reading and you have no idea where to start. Now for myself, I had a little bit of an advantage in this area, mostly because my brother is an avid reader. He did like 100 books this year, it was crazy, or last year. Well, actually, you know, come to think of it, I didn't really take many of his recommendations, mostly because I was afraid it would be, you know, some autobiography, got it, autobiography of some totally random person that I found entirely uninteresting. Another kind of unconventional way that I found books was actually through YouTubers. So there was a number of YouTubers that I would follow and they would do book reviews, and so I would watch the video and then if I thought the book was interesting, I'd be like, okay, I'll go ahead and try that one out. Now that one can be a little bit iffy and I didn't use it just a whole lot, mostly because a lot of the YouTubers I follow have different values and priorities than I do, and sometimes it didn't always align. So I didn't get very many that way, but it was at least something to go off of. However, the main way that I found the books to read when I didn't know where to start was through several apps on my phone. The first one would have been Goodreads, which is kind of it's an app for tracking the books that you read. And it's really great because you can see like what other people are reading and like what your friends are reading and what they, you know, the reviews that they write and what they thought of the book. Each book has a description of what it's about, a very detailed description, and also a rating system of all of the people that have read it and that use Goodreads and what they rated the book as. It's very easy to search by topic or genre or author, and then it lists you know, the top choices of whatever fall into that category. And like I said, it's a very detailed description. So if you're just looking for you know, a topic and you don't know where to start, that's a great way to do it. It's a really good place to just browse because, so like, you know, let's say you put in a genre or a topic, you'll get like a list with like the top choices, versus if you go into like a bookstore or a library and find that topic, it's like this massive section of, you know, mountain of books, and you're like, where do I start? You know, like which authors are good, which books are good. You know, this one's back in 1953, so it's probably not gonna apply as much today. So like stuff like that, it just, this app just takes all of that out of there, and it's way more functional. It's also very exhilarating to stalk people on there and judge them silently for the books that they read, unless their account is private, in which case you can't do that. Another app I use is called Scribd, and you may have heard me mention this before in other videos. It is an audiobook platform, and their app is very user-friendly, and they've got tons of selections. My brother Reagan and I talk about this quite a bit on our podcast when we review the books we read and so forth. It's by far the best audiobook platform that I've found. It's incredibly cheap. It's only $9 a month, and you get unlimited access to as many of the books as you want. Unlike Audible, where you only get one book a month, or if you want to, you know, pay extra for them, this you just pay an upfront fee, and millions of selections are all yours. You just select whichever ones you want, and there you go. Now, if you want a free month, you can click the link in the description and it will automatically sign you up for a free month, and you may cancel at any point in time that you so desire. Wow, this really sounds like an ad. Scribd and Goodreads both have very good algorithms as well to help kind of recommend good books for you. So like when you finish a book, it'll give you like, you know, some recommendations of like, okay, you know, here's the last 3 books that you finished. So based on that, we think that you might enjoy this, you know, next book over here. I would just kind of stair step my way from one to the next of what they recommended until I got used to genres and authors and became familiar with that, and I could kind of do my own searching then. Now, obviously these are great options for anyone who enjoys reading, but it was especially helpful for me when I was just beginning to read. So now what happens if you've been reading for a while and you have a huge reading list, and there's other people that are recommending books to you, and then you have this other reading list over here that you've put off for a while that you should probably start reading on, and then there's this other random Joe, your great uncle of some sorts, that's just like, hey, you should really read this book because it'll really expand your horizon. Okay, you kind of get my drift. So how do you decide what to go with? Because chances are they most likely look like pretty decent books. Now, a very real possibility and danger at this point is to only choose books that you're pretty sure you will enjoy, books that align with your interests. Now, this is logical, right? But when we do this, we lose the main benefit of reading, which is to expand our horizons of the world and of our knowledge, and to dip a little farther into that untouched knowledge that we haven't grasped yet. And I've definitely fallen into this trap before, where I just read things that don't really stretch me. They're just kind of within my funnel of books and genres and topics that I know that I'll enjoy. Maybe I'm learning new things, but it's not like I'm gaining a broad understanding of the knowledge at large. Now, a great way to combat this is, I don't know why I was like karate chopping that. A great way to combat this is to develop a little bit of a system that I call the reading ratio. An example of this would be like a 2-to-1 ratio of reading. So what that would mean is that you read 2 books that you are pretty sure you'll enjoy. They're kind of down your alley. Could be, for me, that'd be like personal development stuff, productivity, increasing your mental capacity, things like that. And then after those 2 books, I flip over and read 1 book that is outside of my normal scope of what I would normally take in. Something a little bit broader, maybe world history or, ancient philosophy, reading some of the classics, something like that I wouldn't normally read, but that is important, and that it stretches my worldview and my perspective. And not only that, it also stretches my language capacity, right? Like different genres kind of have a similar language, as it were, of communication. So when you flip completely outside of that, it can take you all the way outside of your comfort zone, which is really, really good. And this is really hard to do because it's hard to set your books aside that you really want to read and read this book over here that is just, you're not quite sure if you're gonna like it. Like, it's just kind of out there a little bit, but someone said it'd be good, so like maybe I should. So it's tough to do that, but I think it's really important because, like I said, it captures a lot of the essence of reading and what reading is about. The way I got started doing this was by just asking random friends. I'd be like, okay, if you could recommend any book to me and you knew without a doubt that I would read it, which book would you recommend? And so I started doing that, just asking people, and I would get their selections. And I especially did this with people that had a much more broad reading style. And at times it was difficult reading, and I'm still kind of getting used to it, but it was incredibly good for me. And I'm still pursuing that and trying to stretch myself outside of that. Now, again, before I read any book recommendation, I always look it up on Goodreads, because people can get a little excited when they're, advertising books to you or recommending books that'll, change your life and all this great stuff. So I prefer to go and get a kind of an unbiased opinion. Now, the last thing I'll mention is something called a must-read list. And this is a list of books that you put down there that at the end of the year, you will have read these books. So for me, I try not to put more than about 10 books on there, unless you're reading, upwards of 70, 80, 90 books a year, then maybe you could. But I like to leave room for a little bit of variety in there as well. So for me, these books are the ones that aren't quite as flashy maybe, and the ones that, don't fit perfectly into my whimsical interests, but that I know will be really good for me, or that I know are just simply really good books. Now, if you're at all interested in my favorite books of 2021 and kind of a brief overview of them, you should definitely check out this video right up here, where I discuss that and talk about it. Now, if you want an even deeper dive, you could also listen to my brother and I's podcast, where we review those same books and go a little bit deeper into them. And you can also hear what his favorite books of the year were. We talk about reading goals and a whole bunch of fun stuff over there, and how reading 100 books in a year is actually possible.